Hello, Claremont. I can't believe it's got to Friday so quickly again. We've had a bit of an unusual week this week, closing the school on Monday for the snow, which I must admit I found really difficult. I think the snow looks beautiful, but when we've got ice on the playground and ice on the pavements and roads around, and it's really difficult for us to move around safely to get into school, I felt I didn't have any other choice. So I'm sorry if that caused you a bit of a unusual start to the week. However, we've had 3 days so far. We've got our fourth day of in-school and remote learning, and I hope you have had a really exciting and fun week of learning. Now, I spoke last week about reflection being a really important skill for us to have, and it is. And coupled with that is the skill to remember. And sometimes we have to remember things that haven't happened to us, but have happened before we came along to help guide us and help us make the right decisions. I'm going to tell you a short story about a young girl in a moment, a very important young girl in the history of the world, and a very important young girl in the history of women. Somebody who recorded things and spoke out and was extremely brave. And through her actions, we have been able to learn and hopefully develop a better world than the world that she lived in. Now, I know Miss Davis shared with you on Tuesday an assembly about the Holocaust and the terrible events that happened leading up to and during the Second World War. The terrible labour camps and concentration camps that certain people were sent to work in under terrible conditions, under awful conditions, under the worst conditions imaginable. And it deeply saddens me to think that human beings could treat other human beings in that way just because they followed a religion or just because they belonged to a certain ethnic group. Now, sadly, that wasn't the only occasion of this kind of hatred that has happened in our world, and hopefully you, as our future, can learn from these events. And I hope with the deepest parts of my heart that we never see events like this happening in the world ever again. Now, again, I'm going to read to you, and I've failed in my remembering today because I forgot my glasses, but I'm going to read to you a short bit of history about this very brave young lady and the events that took place leading up to and during her life. Okay, this young lady is called Anne Frank. Now, you may have heard about her if you've been doing research into the Second World War, or you may not have heard about her, but she's a very important young lady in the history of the world, as I said. So I'm just going to read some information about her for you, and I'm going to leave you to think and reflect and learn from the events that happened. Okay. Anne Frank was born in Frankfurt in Germany on the 12th of June 1929, so nearly 100 years ago. Her parents were named Otto and Edith, and her elder sister was named Margot. Anne was passionate and vivacious. She was a really pretty, exciting young girl. Growing up, she had many friends, and her early life in Germany was like that of any other child, going on family trips to the seaside, riding her bike, having fun with her friends. In 1933, Adolf Hitler became the leader of Germany, and life for Anne was never the same again. As leader of the Nazi political party, Hitler despised Jewish people. He unfairly blamed them for many of Germany's problems. The Jewish people were forced to wear a yellow star and were not allowed to own or run businesses. As a result, many Jewish people left Germany in search of a safer place to live. Anne and her family were Jewish, so they moved to Amsterdam in the Netherlands when she was just 4 years old. For a while, life seemed to be safe and normal again. With the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939, Anne's father feared that the Nazis would invade the Netherlands, and in 1940 this is exactly what happened. Despite this, Anne happily celebrated her 13th birthday and received a red journal that was to become a record of her experiences as a Jew during the Second World War. Anne loved to write, and, naming her journal Kitty, she began to do so every day. She wrote about her wish for the war to end and other hopes for the future. Otto Frank began to plan a safe hiding place for his family. He had a secret annex behind his office where his family could hide away from the Nazis, safe and unseen. After packing what they could, the family moved quickly into the small annex. They hid away for 2 years with the help of friends, and Anne wrote to Kitty every single day. In total, 8 people hid away in the annex. They had to be very quiet, walking barefoot and hanging heavy curtains at the windows. Anne described the family she lived with and often wrote about how tired she was of living in the cramped space. Just as news about the nearing of the end of the war reached the Franks, they were betrayed and the Nazis found their hiding place. In 1944, the families were arrested, split up and sent to concentration camps. Anne was sent away with Margot. In 1945, just a month before the end of the war, they died from a disease called typhus. The conditions in the camps were terrible, and it wasn't easy to get medical treatment, to get the right food, the right clothing, to be able to wash and clean yourself every day. This just wasn't possible. Anne was just 15 years old. The only family member to survive was Otto Frank. When he returned to Amsterdam, he found Anne's journal. He decided to publish it, sharing Anne's personal thoughts and sufferings with the world. It has been read all over the world and is translated into 65 languages. And you can find copies of the diary of Anne Frank in our school, and you can find books about very powerful and important girls and women all around our school, in the book nook, in our classrooms, and in my office, as you can see behind me. Now, that's a very, very sad story. It's a story about a young girl who lived in fear for her life, for most of her life, and I can't imagine what that's like. Fear is a terrible thing. Fear takes away your ability to think clearly. It makes you go back to our primitive selves, where we think about either running away, hiding, or fighting back, and it stops us thinking. Fear leads to hatred, and hatred leads to darkness. But the good thing about darkness is that we can switch on the light, and you, children of Claremont, are our light. You are our light in the world. You are our hopes and our future. And it's our job here at school to help you build on that light, to help you learn to make the right choices, so that events like the Holocaust never happen again in our lifetime. I believe in you, and I hope that we can give you the skills that will help you to make the right decisions as you grow older. Fear comes from lack of understanding. And our job here is to help you to understand, to help you to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Not because somebody tells you to, not because it's the rules, but because it's the right thing to do. And you know in here, and you know in here, that that's the right decision to make. And that's what we base our class dojo reward points on. We base it on children who choose to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. We base it on the actions that you take that show us that you are learning these lessons. You're learning how to be reflective. You're learning how to be resilient and keep going when the going gets tough. You're learning to make the right choices, and we'll help you with that. So it's a great pleasure for me to share our dojo certificates with you. So this week I've got some 100 dojo certificates and I've got some 200, some reds and some oranges. So here we go. Well done to Hassan in 6SS. Well done to Munir. Now we move on to our 200s. Well done to Lily Ray. Well done to Olivia. Well done to Manira. And well done to Rhiannon. You make me so proud. You make me so proud because you are working hard in school or at home, wherever you are, making the right choices to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Now, I know my assembly today has been about a sad event, but we can learn from sad events. We can learn from when things go wrong so that we can try to make sure that those things never ever happen again. And you can play your part. Thinking about the advice of another great man, Mahatma Gandhi. Think globally. Think about how you want the world to be. And act locally. Do your little bit. Do your tiny little bit. Think about our bodies. Our bodies, my body's quite a big thing, but it's made of tiny little cells. And those tiny little cells working together help to keep me fit and healthy. Be the tiny cell in the world. Be that small thing that makes a big difference. Thank you for listening today. Looking forward to seeing you all again very soon, either through the screen or face to face in a socially distanced way, of course. You make me proud. You make me happy. Read lots. Practice your times table rock stars. Engage with our learning and do your very best to be the best version of you that you can possibly be. Have a great weekend. Bye.